Welcome to Sound Up, your direct connection to everything going on in the world of music. I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
Welcome to our first show of the week. We do 2 shows each week. One drops on Tuesday and one on Friday. Both feature up-to-the-minute news, special guests, and whatever you need to know about what's happening in the world of music.
On our second show, later in the week, it's the Sound Up, Sound Off, where we welcome you to join the show, whether as part of our virtual audience or through voice messages and email. Be a part of the conversation live and join the Sound Up Pod Squad. Find out how at sounduppod.com.
All right, let's waste no more time. If you are ready, let's sound up.
This is Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters.
All right, welcome to Sound Up. I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's show, it is all about the 80s. I'm comfortable.
I think you'll be okay.
We got former Volume host, journalist, and my co-host from the 80s cruise, Lori Majewski, is going to be joining us. We will have a full recap of the performances and a discussion on why the 80s seems more popular than ever. Alan and I are also going to have our new music picks of the week, which we will get to a little bit later on in the show.
But before we get into all that, we have a bunch of music news to get to, and we have to start with the 96th Academy Awards ceremony. Happened on Sunday night in Hollywood and had some interesting and surprising musical performances and special guests.
For sure.
So let's start, I guess, with the song nominees and winner, and Billie Eilish and Finneas take home the trophy for What Was I Made For? Beautiful song, beautiful performance from the Barbie soundtrack, but really fascinating. Billie Eilish now the youngest ever multiple Oscar winner.
How about that? And her brother also, it's weird, they kind of waffled. They said, and we believe that he's now become the youngest two-time winner in Oscar history. Did they do the research or not?
Easy enough to run the stats. Right? It was not, we knew they were nominated. We knew they were probably going to win. Yeah. I saw it a little more definitive out in the world that yes, youngest ever, because they won a couple of years ago for their Bond theme, which was also great. I have no issue with any of these wins.
For sure.
And the other thing on that is, and I don't remember the stat, but I saw it, very few ever Grammy Record of the Year, Oscar Song of the Year winners.
Right.
Like if you go back to, I don't know, Barbra Streisand did, and in the more movie musical days that happened, but is not something that happens very frequently since then. But I gotta say, each of her TV performances, and we've seen her do this song a lot now. They did it at the Grammys. She did it on SNL. Right. You know, she did it last night. To deliver that song in that very precise, quiet, whispery tone and have that thing land, that's not easy to get on television and do. And every performance was better than the next.
It's true. She really nailed each and every one. And then it's almost as though once it's finished, and even more so once they won, she becomes, that kid again, the Billie Eilish, and she's all goofy and doesn't know what to say. And I will once again comment her fashion sense.
She looked great last night.
She looked so cool in that sort of oversized suit. It was almost like the current version of the David Byrne big suit. She looked great and she's so genuine. And I was happy that Finneas got up there and shouted out some people too.
And look, I don't know, she's hinted at it. I know on the carpet last night, she talked about the new album We Have Finished.
Yeah.
And she did say somewhere along the line, there was a post or something that she said about the album being mastered. Like there will be, imminent news of the next Billie Eilish album, which I can't wait for.
For sure. Where does she go?
The other big performance last night, of course, and we noted it when it was announced, was Ryan Gosling leading an all-star cast, a cast of thousands, in I'm Just Ken, the nominated song from the Barbie soundtrack.
Right. And they clearly did not cancel each other out the way, that's for sure. And I will admit to, snickering, not quietly to myself at all, about the upcoming Ryan Gosling performance. I was just, come on. It wasn't that he can't sing or that he can't perform. I knew that he would be able to pull that off. But damn, that was kind of a superstar approach to the song. You see him walking up on stage. The first person he sees is Mark Ronson on guitar.
Writer of the song or co-writer of the song.
And then I thought, oh, okay, what's going to be happening? And then it took a little bit, but then Slash comes walking out. Clear, the hat and the leather, and clear as day. And they're jamming the song and it sounds great. And, he's making people in the audience laugh. He's, behind Barbie and singing into her ear. And then it seemed as though like the song almost ended and they were cutting away. Was that Wolfgang Van Halen? Did I just see Wolfgang?
And Wolfgang, who did play on the soundtrack on the sound, he was part of the band sessions playing for the Barbie songs. So just, a little quick glimpse of him. I loved, if you noted, just in the dancers were some of the Kens from the movie, including like Simu Liu, one of the biggest movie star, like a Marvel superhero. And he was just out there doing the choreo and like in the troupe doing the dance. That I thought was hilarious.
It's as though the producers were like, okay, he's not going to win, but let's go for this.
Just go. Excellent night for Gosling. His bit with Emily Blunt, too, about the Barbenheimer rivalry and how they got to squash the beef was really kind of the only comedy bit with the presenters that worked.
Sure.
Like some of those were super, like what the hell was that Melissa McCarthy, Octavia Spencer thing that made no sense?
I couldn't.
So,
but the John Mulaney bit, I
the
thought
Mulaney thing was
genius.
fantastic.
It's true that most of the comedy just fell flat. One of the funniest moments, though, it's towards the end when Jimmy Kimmel, who has time to kill. What kind of Oscar presentation is this that has time to kill? So that gives him the time to pull up a tweet from Truth Social. One of the great moments. One of the great moments for Jimmy, who's like the ongoing rivalry between him and former President Trump.
So curious for your thoughts, folks. If you want to email us at connect@sounduppod.com. How'd the Oscars work for you? How'd the music on the Oscars work for you? Any strong thoughts on John Baptiste's performance or any of the other music that was there? You feel good about Billy as multiple Oscar winner. Did you need to be convinced on the Ken performance? Did you come around when you saw Slash up there? Let us know anything we ought to know.
Something struck me, and I wonder, Alan, if you were thinking about this as well. In the In Memoriam segment, which, by the way, opened strong with Navalny and that quote from Navalny, right?
Yeah, but let's talk about that In Memoriam segment for a second.
Yes.
We have talked about this on recent awards shows, too. I don't know why everybody has now decided that there needs to be singing and dancing and production. And what happens is the actual people being honored are completely... Last night, you couldn't even read the names on the screen. They were so far in the back behind the dancers, you could not even see the names that were being honored. I hate it. I don't know why they feel like they need to dress this up and clutter it up. And you're watching that to see the people who we lost and the people who are being honored. Right. You don't need a big song and dance around that. Like have somebody sing, that's fine. But I was really angry about that. And I just feel like each show is now getting worse.
I'm with you 100% on that. The thing that they feel like they have to do with these segments to make it, let's entertain them while we're showing the people who died. I thought that the performance was more understated, at least, than the Grammys. I mean, the Grammys, it was distracting. It wasn't even about who had passed.
That's true, but I did feel like at the Grammys, it was more visible.
Who passed?
Who was in memoriam, like who passed.
At the end of the segment on the Oscars, was there like a full screen of a bunch of names that they didn't get to?
Yes. Well, I don't know if they didn't get to, but that they did that way and then through to a QR code.
What did you think about that? I thought that was bizarre.
Either do it or don't do it.
Right.
I mean, either this is a tribute with the honor and respect that involves, or leave it alone or do it some other way or just make it something on the web. But maybe I'm too old school. Maybe I'm too traditional on this, but that just felt so wrong to me.
Totally. I don't understand it. But again, I thought they backed off a bit with the Oscars, but still, let's do it like the old days. Let's just have somebody tinkle in the ivories and let's see the people and get some quotes and, let's see the people who deserve to be honored.
It felt rushed as well. On a show that started an hour earlier, which I thought they were doing so they would have more time for stuff like this. It felt rushed and it just, it was odd.
And the fact that they wound up killing time still to me, like what did they do too fast or leave out?
They built in an extra half hour. It was to go to the 30-minute, I guess, because knowing it's going to run over to a degree. But then they didn't fill the full 30 and we're, and we're vamping.
And they played a couple of people off. I mean, what? Jeez, I couldn't figure that out.
And Don't they usually give someone like a big Lifetime Achievement Award and there's that big moment?
Yeah, the Gene Herschel Award. And no, I think they just announced at some point, they said Mel Brooks and I forget who, there were 3 who were given awards. They mentioned it throwing to an ad.
Yeah, that was a mistake too, I thought.
Couple other things we want to get in here. We have talked about the Liam Gallagher and John Squire collaboration.
Yeah.
Bringing luminaries from Oasis and Stone Roses together. And in the end, at least in the UK, massive hit, the Liam Gallagher and John Squire, that is the title album, #1 on the charts, outsold its nearest rival by a ratio of 3-1.
Not bad, but you would expect that in the UK.
And I gotta say, we've talked about it. You guys both loved the first single. I was a little more muted on it. Have you listened to the album?
I haven't heard the album yet.
The album's really good. I have to give it up.
Wow.
And say it really does play to their strengths. It's just kind of simple and stripped and does the thing. My objection on that first single was it felt too long. It got lost in a guitar solo. I was listening to a bunch of Oasis this weekend, which reminded me that as I love the great stuff I love from them, and every song is a minute too long. Every Oasis song, even the best ones, there's like a 2-minute fade out. So it's just kind of, one extra swing for epic all the time. So I'll let that go. And I will say, listen to the full album because I really like it a lot.
So does this pretty much negate any chance of the Oasis reunion?
Who knows what the hell to say? Again, if they can put out #1 albums on their own, then it's a lot less incentive. Now, could they fill the size of stadiums that they could do together? Obviously not. But we wait and we see, and we wait and we watch, and we read the tweets, and
Yeah.
I meant to ask you, Roger, do you know this? Did we talk about this? Liam Gallagher and John Squire are touring and they're coming to New York in the spring and they are playing that reopened Brooklyn Paramount. Have you read about this?
I have.
Yeah, it's not far from you. Not far from you in Brooklyn. It's right down the street from my best friend in Brooklyn. That one of these old classic movie palaces from the 30s or 40s that's been closed, that they are reopening as a music venue and announced a full slate of folks coming through there, including that's where the Liam Gallagher and John Squire date for this market was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I will be there for that. By the way, have you seen the video for the first single, For a Rainbow?
No.
You have to see it. I mean, it opens up with Liam like in a shadow, walking through a tunnel, and it's clearly he's got the poncho on. I mean, it is so on brand. It is, but you get chill. You're like, oh man, this is cool. Like, it's just like this great return for him in a way. It's really cool.
Got to check that out. Got to check the whole album out. Got to do it.
Again, folks, listen, let us know. Email us, send us a voicemail. We know we've got Oasis fans out there, how this record's working for you. Real quick, South by Southwest is going on down in Austin. And I actually don't know the follow-up to this story. The story that broke was that a new documentary that's been in the works, we've talked about it, about the legendary Billy Preston, sideman for the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and some #1 hits on his own, and played with Ray Charles when he was 14 years old, and Aretha Franklin's music director at one point. Documentary that's been in the works for a while. The day that it was supposed to debut at South by Southwest, a lawsuit was filed, a fraud suit was compiled from Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Sam Moore of Sam and Dave, the Preston Music Group, Ken Burke, and others. The complaint, just a quick quote, says that this film is a salacious, posthumous outing of Mr. Preston that centers on his sexuality, a deeply personal matter that Mr. Preston kept private until immediately before his untimely death, to the exclusion of many of the late musician's notable accomplishments. Billy Preston, That's the Way God Planned It, was supposed to premiere on Friday. I honestly don't know if they went forward with the screening or not.
Yeah, I was trying to see if that injunction worked, if it did not screen. We don't know. It's a really convoluted case. It's a convoluted story. And Paris Barclay is no slouch as a director.
Our friend Cheo Coker, who I know we've talked to, he was a writer for me at Vibe and has gone on to be a very prominent TV and film director, producer, writer. He's been working on this. It's through Nigel Sinclair's company, Whitehorse, who have done No Direction Home, and they did the Apollo documentary. And these are all very legit, prestigious people who have been attached to this film. But the suit claims that it uses, again, a quote, intellectual property and other materials provided by and belonging to the plaintiff, and again, claiming fraud in what they have purported this film would be.
The claim seems to be that they focused on the fact that towards the end of his life, Billy Preston came out as gay, and that seems to be the epicenter, according to these people, that's the epicenter of this story, when in fact, and if that's the case, rightly so, that's not the epicenter of the story,
Says that this project, again a quote, that this project is about pushing the directors and producers' personal agendas and financial benefit rather than the homage to Billy Preston that was sold to the plaintiffs.
Well, since none of us have seen it, it's hard to weigh in. There is another suit ongoing in Los Angeles. Sam Moore's wife was handling Billy Preston towards the end of his life.
Yes.
She is currently involved in a suit there. The Preston estate, the Preston family, has gone after her. She changed his will so that she wound up being the beneficiary. And there is a huge fight going on over that. And I don't know how these two cases are going to wind up interlocking.
Curiously, at least this Variety piece that I'm looking at right now doesn't mention, who's sort of like, why is Sam Moore involved in this?
Yeah.
Well, Sam Moore is involved in this because Joyce Moore, who is his wife and his manager for however many decades, was Billy Preston's manager, at least in the later years of his life. And so this isn't just some random interview subject saying, I was deceived about what this intent of this project was. This is actually a relevant and involved party. So I would love to see a great Billy Preston documentary. It is an amazing story of a child prodigy gospel player, who played with the soul greats, who went on to be, let's say it again, the only guy credited on the label playing with the Beatles.
Yeah.
Get Back is the Beatles with Billy Preston. No one else can say that.
Wasn't he also the first musical guest on Saturday Night Live?
That may be right.
Very first episode. I'm pretty sure it was Billy Preston and Janice Ian.
Well, and of course, number one, Nothing from Nothing and Will It Go Round in Circles and Out of Space. The guy had, plenty of hits on his own, leaving aside all the sideman credits. So, I'll go see this film for sure if we're able to go see it.
Right. We have a couple other things to cover here before we take the break and start talking 80s.
Real quick, just want to mention that, it's funny. All of us have been watching for the past few years, all of these big catalog publishing legacy deals that artists have been doing as they have reached their later years. The $500 million that Bruce Springsteen did with the Sony Corporation, Dylan, Neil Young, everybody pretty much has sold off at least some part of the rights to their catalogs. It seems that business has slowed down a little bit, A, because all the megastars have been taken, and B, out of concern that's, maybe some of those deals, these companies overpaid. And there's been a lot of turmoil. The Hypnosis company, Merck Mercuriadis company, sort of led this charge and then has come under there was some board restructuring. Merck's position shifted.
Did he bail or was he bailed?
That is a big question, but the shareholders have not been getting the return that they were promised for these deals. So they've been a little bit slowed down, but there was just the announcement that Irving Azoff's iconic artists group, who are in this game and have rights to the Beach Boys and Linda Ronstadt, some other folks, just did a deal with Bryan Ferry for 50% of his recording, publishing, and the name, image, and likeness rights from his solo work and the Roxy Music catalog. Further terms not disclosed. But interesting, that these deals are still getting done. And for, Bryan Ferry, a significant figure, a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, but not a Bruce Springsteen level figure. And also that Irving Azoff, mostly his deals have been with people within his management roster.
Yeah.
And if he maybe sees an opening, if the others have cooled down, if other people are backing out of this space, to maybe pick up some of the other available assets out there.
Right. Yet another story. They have to be slowing down. I can't think of anyone left that if I was in that business, who would I be going after?
The Grand Slam that's out there is Queen. That's the one that everybody is looking at. And is that going to be the first $1 billion deal? That's the one. And it was Pink Floyd, but Roger Waters has pretty much blown that up. That was the other one that was, clearly left as a big ticket item.
Right.
But there's too much concern about about the toxicity of Roger Waters for people to put that kind of money down.
Right. One more thing I know you wanted to mention.
Yeah, actually, I want to read two things that just got announced. Back-to-back weeks, 2 tribute shows just announced in Los Angeles that are pretty amazing, these lineups. April 11th at the Hollywood Bowl, Keep the Party Going, a tribute to Jimmy Buffett was just announced. Listen to this bill. Paul McCartney, the Eagles, John Bon Jovi, Zach Brown, Jackson Brown, Brandy Carlisle, Kenny Chesney, Eric Church, Sheryl Crow, Jack Johnson, on and on and on. So April 11th, a Jimmy Buffett tribute show. And then the next week, April 18th in LA, at the YouTube Theater, Mavis Staples' 85th birthday tribute.
Wahoo.
With Black Pumas, Chris Stapleton, Grace Potter, Hosier, Jackson Brown, Jeff Tweedy, Michael McDonald, Norah Jones, Taj Mahal, Robert Randolph, and a bunch more.
So does Jackson Brown just show up at every benefit?
Jackson Brown is, if you're paying tribute, if somebody's getting honored, Jackson's going to be there. He's in LA. What the hell's he got better to do?
Yeah, let's call Jackson. He'll come. Yeah. Did you guys talk about this while I was away? The fact that Bruce Springsteen is going to be headlining one day of the See Here Now Festival in New Jersey on the beach?
We did. And we took to our listeners to say, if Springsteen at Asbury Park is a real thing, what would be your fantasy dream show at a show? And a shout out my friend of mine, Keith Cartwright, great writer, emailed me saying, speaking of, I was just going to say this. He said Jackson Brown at the Troubadour was his equivalent answer for seeing Bruce at Asbury, which I thought, yeah, that kind of works.
Hell yeah.
Mark, I have to bring something up because this might come back into the show later with an email we get. So in doing this question, Alan and I both had a scenario of here's a dream concert we would like to see. And it had to be something that was based in reality, could happen today. And mine was Soul Asylum opening for the Replacements at First Avenue. Alan's, by the way, which hit me totally out of... I'm waiting for this grand, kind of smart Alan-esque bill at the perfect venue. And Alan comes across and says, mine would be seeing Taylor Swift on her Christmas farm. That was his answer.
And we got an email from our friend Allison, said, Alan, please take me with you to Taylor Swift on the Christmas tree farm. I was trying to come up with the perfect venue for her, and you did it.
That sounds amazing. But we will take the fast break here. I just got back from the 8th annual 80s cruise. And Lori Majewski, who you know from co-hosting the morning show on Volume for 6+ years, journalist, also somebody who is now contributing over on First Wave on Sirius XM. She's going to be joining us. She was one of the co-hosts on the 80s cruise and did some great interviews, did some great emceeing, and was in the room for one of the big collaborations of the entire cruise. We'll talk about that. I'll say it involved air supply. That ought to hold them.
Don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere. Stand by. There is a lot more coming up on Sound Up, including our pal Lori Majewski. Stay right there.
This is Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters.
All right, welcome back to Sound Up. And as promised, our friend Lori Majewski joining us. Welcome, Lori. Good to have you here with us for the first time on Sound Up. It's kind of a reunion for all of us.
Well, first of all, can I just say I like the way you ripped off the Clash for your tagline?
Thank you, Roger. So Lori was on the 80s cruise. This was your second cruise, right, Lori?
Fourth. I graduated. I was a senior this year,
Dude,
Mark.
you were a senior this year.
Yes.
Well, congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
This one was tons of fun. And a lot of the people that I spoke to, a lot of the cruisers, were saying that it was the best one yet.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I mean, I liked all of the bands that were booked, but at the same time, I thought, well, you know, maybe there's some others that might have been bigger, but from everyone that I spoke to, everybody was thrilled. I know you, Lori, in particular, were really happy about the Air Supply booking.
Yes, they were my very first favorite band, pre-Duran Duran, when I was in single digits. Air Supply was my favorite, and I still carry a torch for them all these years later. And the thing about Air Supply that people don't realize is that they're a great live band, and they're probably bigger now in terms of people who love them, people who've gone to see them live, than they've been since their heyday, which is wild. They've been around 49 years.
I co-sign on that, Lori. It's kind of wild to walking around on the ship during the course of it. That was one of the top 2 bands that people were anxious to see. And once those shows went down, the shows that people were flipping out about, they definitely, I admit, they rocked a bit more in concert than I imagined that they would.
Well, they absolutely rocked.
Mark, I have a question for both of you guys. When you say that this was, people said this was the best ever or whatever it is, other than the bill, other than the band lineup, does the experience change a lot year to year? I mean, do they refine how the thing works and what it is you're doing and what the offerings are? What makes one better than another, other than who the bands happen to be that time around?
That's a good question. I think that, the events that they do nightly, there's costume events each night. And there's, sort of the focus on, as Lori was saying, like Lori was a senior this year, like there's, graduating classes. And things happen, performances happen. Like they had this year, they had a Beastie Boys tribute for the seniors. Were you at that, Lori?
I was not. I was doing my book signing during that time.
They did. Everybody was like, "What are the Beastie Boys coming? What's going on?" Because it was not announced until day of, and suddenly there was like throughout the boat there was all these rumors flying. But the nightly events and the way that people prepare for them, it was crazy, and there was great costumes.
Yeah, the costumes, Mark, I mean, you've done this now 8 times. This was my 4th time. But in the 4 times I've done it, usually you build throughout the week to the costume contest, pop icon night at the
Right.
last night. But I want to say from night 1, these people were pulling out costumes that you usually see on night 7. I mean, it was really crazy. There was punks and preps. So you either dressed up like a punk or a prep. There was neon night. When I went to introduce one of the bands and the lights went down, the entire audience was awash in glowing lights from people in the audience. People on the bottom of their shoes had glowing lights. So when they like put their feet up in the balconies, you saw like lights. It was really something. Oh, Sci-Fi Night was a new one this year. And that was crazy too.
I just am imagining, Lori, people at home who have never been on the cruise listening to this. And I want to try and sort of couch it in some sort of sensibility. The people who are on the cruise, they're us. They're you and me. There are people who are their parents and they have jobs. They're not like lunatic 80s fanatics, but actually they are, but they don't act like jerks. It's a family. And that's the thing about it. Each year, I think it gets better and better because more and more and more people are coming year after year. And similar to what happened with our Volume channel and the Volume Maniacs, these people on the 80s cruise have formed their own alliances. They're meeting from different cities around the country. They're meeting on the cruise each year. They're going to concerts elsewhere. So that helps to make this event something really special.
Formed their own alliances scares the hell out of me. That sounds like it's,
man.
the rebel force.
They're bringing the 80s. They're bringing it.
I got a question for both of you. I mean, this cruise has, been going on for years now. What is it about the 80s that makes it this just community built kind of moment for people that has bonded people, that has exploded into these festivals, tours, cruises, connections? What is it about the 80s that is bigger than some of these other musical decades?
Yeah. Lori, I'll weigh in on this one first. We are both pretty passionate about the 80s, you and me, as I think our audience knows. There is, and we talked about this particular idea on the cruise this year because next year is going to be the first 90s cruise. And I just think that the joy of the 80s is not the same as what happened in the 90s. I think it's going to be a completely different vibe. The people who run the cruise, just having random conversation with the guys at Entertainment Cruise Productions, and they actually, both of them individually said to me, we're going to be able to do this for at least another 10 years because the thing sells out immediately, even before, in many cases, before the lineup is even announced. It's like a festival in that way. And it's weird for those of us who lived through it, who as adults, to look back on the decade, because people who look back on it are like, it was what an innocent time. And it was such a beautiful time. And it was unfettered. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, the fashion was fairly awful. And there was Reagan.
Everybody was living under terror of nuclear attack.
How many songs are there about nuclear holocaust in the 80s? And that's why.
But they're all upbeat and happy now.
They are.
I'll stop the world and melt with you.
That's what I'm saying. And even for me to look back, there is, to me, an unfettered joy about that decade, unlike the 90s, as much as there's plenty of 90s music I like. What do you think, Lori?
Well, the big difference between the 80s and 90s is the 80s people took cocaine and were up, and in the 90s people needed Prozac because they were so down. That's the difference. I mean, it's going to be, the 90s cruise is going to be a bunch of sad sacks.
So you're advocating the return of cocaine as a drug for recreational use?
If someone put a gun to your head and said, which would you take? I mean, come on. But the truth is, I love the 90s and I love 90s music, but 80s, it's 80s culture. The 90s, I think they say 93, 94, the world becomes homogenous in terms of fashion. The Gap becomes, everything. Parents dress in Gap, grandparents, kids, tweens, J. Crew. It just becomes this like bland, everyone looks and sounds the same, right? And that's due to the fact that I guess also the country comes closer, the world comes closer, technology has brought us closer. But MTV, really ruled the roost. And there was the people who didn't have MTV in the 80s, and then there were the people who had it. And then once we all got it, mall culture, there was the punks, the metalheads, the new wavers. There was a real sense of not only what you sounded like musically being different, but also what you wore being different. So it's the kind of the last great costume time. And the worse you dress makes for more fun. I mean, like kids today, when they get their senior pictures, they look like models. They look gorgeous and perfect. No, you got to look back at the bad haircuts. I mean, how many bald guys on the cruise, Mark, were walking around with mullets? It was just like, everybody was wearing their hair fun. It was the pre 9/11. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
I got to question that a little bit because I feel like so much of the love for the 80s is the other end of that, which is it's the last time that there was sort of shared common ground, that like the great thing about what happens in 1984, which is, the biggest year in the world with Purple Rain and Born in the USA and Like a Virgin, is like everybody knew the same stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
That it was a shared culture that then fragments much more.
Yeah.
I flip what you say completely, which is I feel like part of the nostalgia for the 80s is there was all this stuff we could agree on. By the 90s, there's grunge over here, there's gangsta rap over here, and these worlds are not talking to each other in the same way anymore. Whether that's a plus or a minus, I think is a cause for discussion. I don't think it's so much about the range of the 80s as about the common ground of the 80s.
Oh, no, there was a lot of range. Come on, guys. There was so much range. I didn't like Bruce Springsteen in the 80s. I didn't like Bon Jovi in the 80s. I like it now. And it's fun in retrospect.
But you knew it and you heard it and you had an opinion about it instead of the like, I don't even know what that, like Shania Twain, I've never even heard that, but it's one of the biggest records in the world.
There's number one records today who half the country has not heard. I feel you on that, Alan. I think one of the things, and I guess in retrospect, it's sort of been a wash. One of the things that bugged me about MTV in the long haul was that regionality was flattened. Before there was what was happening even in the 90s. Seattle suddenly had its own sound. New Orleans had a sound. New York had a sound. And MTV tended to homogenize that so that people in Seattle could hear what was going on in New Orleans. And, and it was part of their reality and part of their daily music listening because of MTV's making it available to everyone. And then radio stations started to follow suit.
Yeah, which was obviously growing up in Cincinnati, like before MTV, it took time for what was happening,
right?
At the leading edge of music and culture to make its way to the middle of the country. Now, the new whoever video came out, everybody saw it the same day. Everybody saw what they looked like and sounded like at the same time. That became, again, common experience.
What do you think, Laura?
You know what? I hear you, but I also know there's a reason there were punks and preps and, the cool kids and the this and that. We all came together as the Breakfast Club for that one morning, and we never forgot it.
So each of you, give us some highlights.
All right, the number one highlight, Mark wasn't there because he, you were
I know what you're going to say.
To be at Air Supply.
Shut up. That's not why. Shut up.
No, you were at the first night of Air Supply. You were there for a while. Yep. And you looked at your phone a lot, and I tried to get you to pay attention. But me and Jill loved it. Anyway, the second night of Air Supply, Sebastian Bach came out for the encore and sang All Out of Love with them. And it turns out that downtown Julie Brown, who told me she was really nervous to interview Sebastian Bach before we got on the boat, she killed it. When she went into that interview, he was so up for the 80s cruise, Sebastian Bach. Remember, the guy's like 6'6". He is like a T-Rex with like metal hair. And he told her he was so excited to be on the same boat with Air Supply, that they were his favorite band when he was growing up, and that he had a paper route. And on his bike, he taped his boombox onto it so he could listen to the first and second Air Supply albums on cassette as he delivered his papers. So he was so excited, and he said, I wish I could get up there and sing with them. I know every single word to every song. And, well, Air Supply, they granted that wish.
So you were in the room, Lori.
I was in the room. I was in the temple. It was like church.
Well, you posted also, and from the post, I couldn't quite hear. So tell me, in the room, how did Sebastian Bach sound with Air Supply?
He sounded fantastic because, I think that Air Supply was so generous, they kind of dialed it back and let him shine. And he had tears. He had tears, Sebastian Bach. He was like so emotional over this. And the thing about Air Supply, Russell Hitchcock has sleeves of tattoos, okay? Yep. He loves AC/DC. So he was really into the fact that they were getting Sebastian Bach to be on this song and to duet on that part, like, I'm all out.
It was really cool.
I'm so lost without you. And he sounded great, Sebastian did.
And the video that you posted, and there's more video that I'm sure is going to go up, to see him on stage with those guys, he is into it, man. He is into it.
He should join the group. They could call themselves Hair Supply.
Yes.
So that's certainly a great moment that I'm really sorry that I missed. But in terms of great performances, there's a couple that stand out for me. And by the way, that conversation that Downtown Julie Brown had was one of the greatest interviews on the boat this time around. Really, really something. Performance-wise, Midnight Star.
Oh my God, my youth. Cincinnati's own. My youth.
I introduced them as Cincinnati's own.
Thank you, Lori.
Did you really, Laura?
I did, because they thought I was going to confuse them with Atlantic Star. They took me aside and said, we just want, this is no disrespect, but it's happened before. We are not Atlantic Star. And I said, no, you're no parking on the dance floor. I was like, no, you're operator. No, you're Freakazoid.
Freakazoid.
And they were just taken back. They opened with Freakazoid.
I will just say that when I would DJ dances in high school, we would go out and get no parking signs so that we could put them.
No parking on the dance floor. And something I didn't realize, every member is an original member of Midnight Star.
Intact.
All the original, all completely intact. What band on the boat or anywhere can say that these days? It was that's pretty amazing. And they were phenomenal. Not just good, they were great. The other one, Ray Parker Jr. I had a great conversation with Ray, who was hysterical, really funny, telling Marvin Gaye stories, telling stories about him growing up in Detroit and the artists that he has worked with over the years. And, we talked about, I had to say, doesn't it piss you off that everybody thinks that you're just Ghostbusters? And he laughed and he was like, I'm happy that everybody knows Ghostbusters. That one, he said, I sent a couple of kids to college on that song. He was fine with it. And he was just a joy to listen to, had great stories. Definitely one of the big performances, I think, on the cruise this year.
Lori, for you?
Okay. My first date in the history of my romantic life was a Debbie Gibson concert. And Debbie brought that tour.
Thank you for mentioning that too. I'm sorry I didn't.
She brought that tour, the Electric Youth Tour, to life. It's 35 years today that album went to number 1 and stayed there for 5 weeks, which is massive, right? And she's an artist who self-produced, she sang and she performed, right? And she wrote her own songs, unlike her perceived rival at that time, Tiffany. And I loved that tour. I loved that man for 5 years, Donald Crook, my first date. And I know the dance moves. Okay, so she brings the dancers from that tour. Buddy, who I knew, when I saw Buddy, who's now bald, come out on stage, that was her high school, like her BFF in high school. And all the music videos, he returned for this tour. He's 50-something and he could still do the backflip. She wore the same...
Standing backflip.
Yes!
Come on.
Yes! She wore the same clothes. This is the biggest trick of the night for someone in their 50s. She wore the same clothes from that tour. And
the videos.
Same set list.
Yep. Yep. And she played the videos behind her for each song. And I asked her about this. They did practice to a click track so that you're seeing her. And for the first part of the show, she was wearing the same outfit as Lori, as you mentioned. And she's one of the few artists who can play their videos from the 80s and not have people go, oh my God, whoa, it's changed. She looks the same.
She looks great.
I think her voice is better today than it was in the 80s. It looks like she's having the best time ever. She's really, and she is in great form and has really kind of engineered a comeback for herself. She's doing really well. She has new music on the way out.
She wrote a song for one of the contestants who's currently on The Voice. So she's still writing music. And the thing about Debbie, she was the star of the cruise because she got on in Orlando. She got on in Orlando. She stayed the entire cruise. Some artists, they get on halfway or they get off halfway. She was on the entire cruise and she was game for every autograph, every picture. She even went to the prom in 80's gear. The 80's prom is one of the biggest nights on the cruise. And she and Buddy went as an 80's couple. It was fantastic.
Did you see what she posted with me and her?
Yes.
She gave me the jacket.
I have to log off now.
And
very upsetting.
And she posted, it's on her site. She posted some sort of, modeling shots of her and I, and her looking incredible. You're right. She got decked that night. She got decked out in a full on prom gown. She looked amazing and she was surprisingly good. She's been on the cruise before and she was sick as a dog and soldiered through. But this time around, she was great. Anybody else? Is there anybody else you wanted to mention before we wrap up here?
Oh, man. I mean, the thing about the 80's cruise is that you think you're going into it for one or two bands. Like, oh, that's the one I bought the ticket for. And then there were so many. Like you said, Midnight Star was incredible. I'm going to say Real Life, who I only knew to have that one song, Send Me an Angel, which is a first wave favorite.
Right.
And I was like, what else do they have? Well, they had Christopher J., who's drummed with Berlin. They had Dave Schultz, who's played with Berlin as well, and Wang Chung. And the two of them backed up the Australian dude, David, from Real Life. And they were like a power trio. People came 2 nights in a row. Usually you see one band and then you switch off and see a different one the same time the next night. People were coming back to see Real Life. They really kicked ass. For a band with one song, you didn't care that you didn't really know the other songs. They were great.
Making discoveries on the 80s cruise. That's a win. Imagine right there.
So, Alan, are you sold? Are you going next year?
This is not the one for me.
Too much fun for you, Alan.
Way too much fun for me.
Well, I will say that they have announced the 2025 lineup.
Who is it?
Squeeze, Adam Ant, Christopher Cross, Sheila E., Men at Work, Andy Bell from Erasure. That's just to begin.
Wow.
Information Society, Curtis Blow, Honeymoon Suite, The Alarm, Roger.
All right, I'm coming.
The Alarm, Faster Pussycat, T'Pow.
Wow.
Come on. That's a one-song person that she's going to have more. I know it. I'm so happy she's coming to the US.
Don't forget China in Your Hands.
Absolutely.
We'll have to do this show from the cruise next year and have to bring Alan with us.
That's that lineup. I could amuse myself enough with that lineup.
And that's just the beginning. There's more to be added. It's going to be fun. So, Lori, I'm so glad that you're a senior. Now that means, are you going on?
I'm an alum now. I've already graduated.
So you go on. I don't know. Is there like grad school or something on board? I'm not sure what happens after this.
There's alumni. The alumni get a special performance every year as well.
Ray Parker, by the way, there was an alumni gathering on the boat, and Ray, quote, hosted it. And it was in the same studio where his band played. It's Studio B. It's a smaller studio than the main one, but still holds, it's a few thousand, a couple of thousand people, 1,500. And they stuck him out on stage for this alumni thing, which was supposedly, I guess, all the people who had graduated. And nobody told him anything. They sat him out there on a chair with a guitar. And he was telling me in the interview, I didn't know what nobody said anything. Nobody introduced me. So he went out and just started playing and telling stories. And people loved it. He was incredible.
And Air Supply gave the commencement speech, by the way.
Oh, did they? How fitting. How fitting.
And they said in 49 years, they've never had a fight. They're no Daryl Hall and John Oates.
Well, that's something. No wonder they're still together. God bless them. It was a fun one. Definitely a fun one. Lori Majewski, always
so good
great
to see you.
Cruise with
we miss you.
Love you guys. Miss you guys. So happy for Sound Up. Can't wait to listen to what you think of the Oscars. Before you go, do you want to say what you have coming up? I know you have a big Fierce Women in Music coming up. Well, it is Women's History Month. And I have a show every single week on SiriusXM. It's an exclusive on the app. We have a special on Girls Run the Music World, a roundtable discussion of Bay, Tay, and Billy. And I also have, a special episode dedicated to Joni Mitchell, which I just taped, and it's wonderful, with Mark Myers, who is the author of Anatomy of a Song and Anatomy of 55 more songs. Hopefully Sheryl Crow coming up as well. All right. Lori Majewski, many thanks. All right, so we're going to wrap up Sound Up for at least for this episode, and we'll wrap it up real quick with some new music picks. There's some cool stuff out there, and I have, Alan and I from back in the days of old, we oftentimes overlapped with new music picks. And I wonder if we will this time around. I'm just going to shout out the 4 or 5 that I got picked. 4 or 5, okay, all right. We're not playing them here, so I'm just going to run through. There is new music out today from Sheryl Crow. Actually, it was out this past Friday. Sheryl Crow featuring Peter Gabriel. She does a really cool version of Digging in the Dirt with Peter on it from her upcoming album Evolution. Our friend from back in the day on Volume, Girl in Red, out with new music. Doing It Again, Baby, the name of the new one from Girl in Red. Maggie Lindemann has just a killer track on a new EP called Head Split. It's called Taking Over Me. It's the first time that all the music on this EP is written solely on her own. The Marias, another favorite from back in the day with Alan and me.
Run Your Mouth from Submarine, which their new one coming out in the spring. And finally, Licky Lee with an incredible Johnny Cash cover, Ring of Fire from the Damsel movie soundtrack. That's just some of what I've been spinning.
All right, very nice. Very solid selects up and down. I only have two. I've tried to be disciplined and tried to keep it to one, but I'll keep it to two this time around, not overlapping. One of them is a new track from forthcoming album from Iron and Wine, Sam Beam and company. And of course, what is notable about this song, All in Good Time, is it is a duet with one of my favorites, one of my heroes, Fiona Apple. Yes. We do not get to hear Fiona's voice nearly enough these days.
Totally thought that you were going to pull that one. I knew it. That's why I left it off the list.
It's not a contest. Lovely song, very sort of sing-songy, but there's an Iron and Wine project that's coming. This is the only, Fiona's not on the rest of the album, but she sounds great on this one. And then the other one from another favorite of ours who has got an album coming out, new song from Marcus King. Marcus has an album that Rick Rubin produced that's coming shortly. A song called Hero came out on Friday. And this album, I think, is going to lean a little bit away from the sort of Guitar Hero thing, really leaning into more his soul singer. This song, he's actually playing acoustic. I did see him last week at the Love Rocks benefit show. And of course, he will still burn down anybody else playing that guitar. But a more understated song, more sort of falsetto vocal, really nice, and makes me look forward to the album that's coming. So Marcus King is my other select.
That is great.
Cool. I actually had two I wanted to bring up, if you guys don't mind, that I checked out this weekend. One is, Alan, you may have brought this up before, but I am obsessed with the new St. Vincent track.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
Broken Man is fantastic. Yeah. It is so cool. It is so clever. And the other song I am real excited about because it really reminds me of how this band started when I first fell in love with them is the new Kings of Leon song, Mustang, which really goes back to their original kind of roots, kind of sound that they had, which I feel has been a little missing. And I feel Caleb's been a little buried in the mix in the last few albums, and he's really up front on this one. And it's a really fun track.
So real quick, Roger, remember you and I went to see, we were sitting near each other at a Kings of Leon show a few years back.
Yes, it was their first show headlining, I think, Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember I'm a massive fan of that band. They did not bring it in that show.
No, that show, either they were nervous headlining, they were also on this tremendous stage, and it felt like they were so far away from each other that they weren't really vibing off each other as much as a band that kind of falls into the jammy kind of thing at times and can really play off each other, especially because they're all related too. That seemed to be missing that one particular night. But
I'm with you on that track. I'm hoping for the best. I love those guys. So
I'm glad you bring up the St. Vincent song because it fell through the cracks the last few weeks, and super excited about an album coming end of April, one of my very, very favorites. So
I think that wraps things up for this show. The next one is going to be our Sound Off show. That one we record Wednesday evening, 6 p.m. East, 3 p.m. West, and you can be part of our virtual audience.
Head on over to sounduppod.com or watch our socials. Follow us on all social media platforms, and the information for how to join will go out. And I think we got to talk some more, much as I don't want to leave this at your doorstep again, Mark, but I feel like what is it about the 80s is still something we want to hear from listeners about. Some of you guys were on the cruise. Some of you guys have been on the cruise. But I'm fascinated, Mark, to hear you say that the guys who run it said, we're looking at 10 more years of this at least. I would like to know more about this. I would like to know more about the magic of the 80s as we go deeper into the 2020s.
I can say that the people who hold my mortgage are really happy.
Yes. So email us any thoughts. Connect at sounduppod.com. Either write us an email or drop us a voice message that way, which we would love to play back on the show, or come and join us when we record for the second episode later in the week.
And don't forget, give us a 5-star rating on whatever platform you listen to Sound Up on. We will catch you for our Sound Up, Sound Off show a bit later on in the week.
Sound Up is hosted by Mark Goodman and Alan Light, produced by Roger Coletti, and distributed by Revolver Podcasts. Theme music by Smile from Tokyo. Get Sound Up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information, email us at connect@sounduppod.com. We'll see you next time right here on Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light.